The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. Real World, Part 1. You absolutely won't find a worse, more rubbish novel than The Proud Immortal Demon Way. Anyone who likes this kind of novel will be looked down upon for life. That person's taste is definitely questionable. Xiāng Tóngxiù laid on the hospital bed, maintaining a smile throughout. He only turned around after the young intern had finished his tirade, gesticulating wildly and slacking off as he swaggered out of the room. A miscalculation, he said flatly. It turned out to be a hater of the Proud Immortal Demon Way. Look at the mess you've made. Xiāng Tóngxiù slumped onto another hospital bed, heartbroken. Tears welled in his eyes as he accused, I'm being insulted. Cucumber bro. How can you just sit there and watch others insult me like that? With his head throbbing with pain, Xiāng Tóngxiù yelled and pulled the curtain between them shut. Shut up. *****. Well, it's a long story, but we'll keep it short. In a nutshell, one day Xiāng Tóngxiù and Xiāng Tóngxiù simultaneously received a system notification. Special notice. The item shop has launched a Lunar New Year's gift pack event. In recognition of the host's consistently excellent performance, a homecoming gift pack can be redeemed in exchange for 50,000 satisfaction points. This gift pack includes a one-week trip to the host's original world. What? Xiāng Tóngxiù was stunned. He asked, wait, aren't we already dead in the real world? How can I go back? And what will happen if I take this offer? It has been confirmed that the user's body in their original world is not dead, but is in a state of shock. What? Turns out he's not dead. But logically speaking, food poisoning shouldn't cause shock, right? Could it be that he was so enraged by Proud Immortal Demon Way that he went into shock? This is truly a complicated situation. This homecoming gift pack is a limited offer and will expire soon. Please decide whether to redeem it immediately. Do you still need to hesitate? After a brief exchange of glances, Xiāng Tóngxiù and Xiāng Tóngxiù immediately decided, buy. The two originally planned to buy it first, then study it thoroughly and discussed it with Luo Binghe and Mo Beijun before using it. Unfortunately, a small problem arose in the process. This is all the system's fault. Previously, the items it provided all had a confirmation process. A loop dialog box would pop up asking, use? Yes/no. Clicking yes was required for it to take effect. But this time, it didn't even bother with asking for confirmation and immediately took effect after the two people exchanged the items. And so it turned into this unexpected situation. *****. Preliminary research indicates that for Xiāng Tóngxiù/Shen Yuan, there is one piece of extremely good news and one piece of extremely bad news. Fantastic news! Time flows much slower in the present world than in the universe of the Proud Immortal Demon Way. Several years have passed in the book, but only one day have passed here. Terrible news! 2 days here could mean several years in the universe of the Proud Immortal Demon Way. It's simply unimaginable. What would Luo Binghe do? However, now that they had arrived in the real world, they have no way of contacting each other. Shen Yuan was very troubled and worried. Although he missed Luo Binghe, he quickly adjusted his mindset. There was nothing more he could do about the situation save for one. Shen Yuan never did things halfway. Once he decided on something, he'll go through it. After all, the gift pack rewards were a one-time thing and they're time limited. Who knows if there will be another chance like this in the future. Fortunately, Airplane was in the same hospital as him, so they weren't separated in the vast sea of people with no one to discuss the situation with. As soon as Shen Yuan woke up, he wandered around the VIP ward and caught Xiāng Tóngxiù holed up in a 4-person ward. Although a slight awkwardness occurred along the way. Here's the thing, after being someone's shizun for so many years, he had developed the habit of putting on airs and he felt incredibly awkward without his fan. While strolling around the hospital, Shen Yuan encountered several elderly women and men asking for directions. He led them to the pharmacy and chatted casually for a few more minutes. As he left, he overheard an elderly man, leaning on his cane, exclaiming to his late grandson, "This young man is extraordinary. It's rare to see someone his age with such presence. He's got connections, he's got real skills." Shen Yuan, ... Compared to his own food poisoning issue, Xiāng Qinghua's physical body suffered from electric shock, which was more serious. Even now, he still suffered from numbness occasionally. Shen Yuan moved him from the regular ward to a higher ward and informed the hospital to add a bed to his VIP room. As a result, the two had many opportunities to communicate. Xiāng Qinghua was very surprised about it. "Cucumber bro, you're actually a second-generation rich kid? Not only are you handsome but you're also a second-generation rich kid." Shen Yuan raised an eyebrow as he asked, "Is it really that surprising?" Shen Yuan, who hadn't seen his original appearance in a long time, didn't feel any sort of dissonance or unfamiliarity with it. As his sister put it, his original appearance was utterly deceptive. A visitor sent Shen Yuan's favorite lily of the valley to the room. Yes, he knew it was poisonous. Shen Yuan clung a cluster of dropping lilies of the valley as their slender green leaves seemed to also clung to him. Just like the lily of the valley, Shen Yuan possessed a refreshingly sense of tranquility. Sitting there with his forearm casually draped over the railing, he was the very picture of an elegant and composed young master. Anyone looking at him would assume he was some wealthy idler, or a dandy, or a party maniac. Just kidding. How could he be a semi-otaku? It's a scam. Xiāng Qinghua was very puzzled. "Okay, no wonder you have so much money to pay tip, and I understand why you dislike proud immortal demon Wei so much. It really was a bit brainless for the real you. But since you're both handsome and a rich second generation, why do you insist on reading a pure, light-hearted novel like the proud immortal demon Wei?" This was the first time Shen Yuan had ever seen someone who could sacrifice 800 of their own strength to kill 1,000 of their enemies while being humble. He wanted to know the answer to this question, too. He just couldn't help himself. What could he do? While reading this story, he was in constant state of back and forth. One minute he thinks it's rubbish, the next he would think that the author was going on with something, only for a while later to started cursing it out loud, saying it's definitely rubbish. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Time to change the subject." Shen Yuan said, "So, your real name is Xiang Fei?" Xiāng Qinghua nodded like a chick pecking at rice. He was able to guess that the person was Xiāng Qinghua because he saw the name. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have been able to make the connection, because the appearance of airplane Juju was really not what he had imagined. Xiāng Qinghua is undeniably a handsome man. However, Xiang Fei clearly looked like a handsome, quiet, shy, and introverted high school boy. Add that to his melancholic profile, white short-sleeved shirt, drab color scheme and ambiguous aesthetics, it's the kind of guy who could be the cover of a melodramatic teen romance novel. He looked like someone who got cornered on the stairs by a burly, menacing male classmate and get his face slapped. Shen Yuan had a sudden realization. No wonder Airplane's aesthetic sense regarding male appearance was that of the handsome and arrogant type like Mo Beijun. Looking like that, he probably had insecurities about his own masculinity, which would explain his strong yearning for the kind of masculine physique that makes one the obvious leader of the group. He wasn't dissing Mo Beijun, he really wasn't. It's just that he himself preferred the appearance of a top student like Luo Binghe, the student council president type. Taking the opportunity, Shen Yuan asked the question that had been lingering in his mind for a long time, "Your real name is so normal, why did you choose such a lewd pen name?" Xiāng Qinghua said aggrievedly, "This isn't my fault, cucumber bro. It wasn't my idea to choose this pen name. When I was young, I was naive and had no sense of privacy. I originally wanted to use my real name as my pen name, but someone was already using that name. I tried from Xiang Fei 1 to Xiang Fei 1 2 3 4 5, and then from Xiang Fei's fish to all 12 zodiac animals like pig, dog, horse, ox, and sheep. I even tried Xiang Fei. And while no one had the same name, the system said it was too long. Finally, in a fit of anger, I chose a pen name that absolutely no one would pick for themselves. I acted on impulse. All the proper names were already taken, so it wouldn't let me have it. And to be honest, Peerless. The name Peerless Cucumber isn't much better. Shen Yuan's face darkened as he said, "Who do you think is like you?" "It's because my sister was watching Peerless Crown Princess at home every day and kept nagging about it, plus I was reading the Proud Immortal Demon Way day and night, staying up late into the night and getting hungry but not wanting to bother anyone to get up and cook for me, so I often just ate cucumbers. I was mentally polluted by those two things when I pick a username for myself." Xiāng Tóngxiù's focus was completely off. He was actually deeply moved, saying with deep emotion, So, Cucumber bro, you've always felt this way about me." Shen Yuan couldn't take it anymore. However, faced with Xiāng Tóngxiù's seemingly innocent and easily bullied high school student face, he couldn't bring himself to yell at him or lay a hand on him. So, he just exclaimed "Ah!" again and pulled the dividing curtain shut. ******. The hospital called Shen Yuan's family as soon as he woke up. His parents had long since handed over the business to their unfilial son and had entered a semi-retired state, and so he immediately asked his high schooler Mimi to take leave and the three of them rushed to the hospital together. Upon seeing his family, Shen Yuan struggled to hold back the tears welling up in his eyes. Having spent so long in the world of Proud Immortal Demon Way, how could he possibly not miss his family? But he knew very well that for something that was beyond his control, he could only try not to think about it. Because the more he thought about it, the more painful it would become. He never dared to give himself a moment to think about home, and always made himself appear as if he were busy and overwhelmed. His two older brothers weren't there. After all, one was conducting scientific research in the icy wilderness of Antarctica, and the other was searching for ancient tea trees in the mountains. Shen Yuan missed them very much, but by the time they finally made it back, he figured he'd already been pulled back by the system and wouldn't be able to see them at all. Moreover, some time ago when they heard that Shen Yuan had suffered food poisoning and went into shock, they had already dropped their busy work and rushed back. It was misunderstood and they really felt sorry for their colleagues. So this time, they simply sent him some photos they had taken of their brother's death as a gesture of sympathy. Deeply moved by this, Shen Yuan summoned his two older brothers in the group chat and sent them a long string of vomiting, insulting, and beating emojis. He then sent them messages that inflicted psychological blackmail, which resulted in them sending a bunch of red envelopes to beg for mercy. His family didn't have any objection to him taking a stroll around the hospital and picking up another patient. His sister, Shen Tang, said while playing a game without looking up, "It's nothing unusual. My brother always liked to bring strays home when he was little. He picked up unwanted puppies, secretly bathed them, secretly took them to bed and slept in the same blanket with them, and then had nightmares with the dog pressing against his chest." Xiāng Tóngxiù was initially puzzled by the sudden enema procedure, then he was moved by Cucumber Bro's apparent love for animals and finally realized, "Hello, so I was a stray picked up by Cucumber Bro." In short, after undergoing a full set of examinations and finally proving that he had fully recovered, he was able to go home, holding several large bouquets of flowers. Of course, Xiāng Tóngxiù also received a full set of medical examinations courtesy of Shen Yuan and was found to be fine. He then prepared to return to his rented apartment. Before parting, Shen Yuan thought for a moment and called out to Xiang Fei, "Do you want to come to my house? My house isn't big, but I can still fit you in." The main issue was that he knew that airplane live alone. He had no one to care for him and no one to check on him. Given how unreliable this guy was that he could even get electrocuted while eating instant noodles, what if he collapsed again? He felt worried for him. He sensed that airplane seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then he chuckled and said, "Cucumber Bro, you really do love me. But time is precious, so let's leave it for your reunion. I have to go back to work." Shen Yuan didn't want to comment on this love conclusion, and so he simply said, "Okay, you get back to work. I'll talk to you in a couple of days." As for what kind of work he was going to do, Airplane Juju said that of course he had to hurry up and eat his favorite instant noodles. Oh no, he had to organize his manuscripts and write a side story for the proud immortal Demon Wei. Shen Yuan found him absolutely hopeless. One should understand that the worst thing he could do to a wildly popular novel was to create a sequel or a side story after it's been running for years. That would be a thankless task, and readers would often comment that it's not the same anymore. This was something unavoidable because even if the author remained the same, the readers did not. Both were progressing on different paths, so how could one expect them to meet at the same point again? In other words, he very much doubted that Airplane Juju would be able to create something earth-shattering. End chapter. The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. Real World, Part 2, Binghe. Shen Yuan did not return to the suburban villa where he was staying before he was hospitalized. Instead, he returned to his large apartment in the city center. If he was asked why, then the answer was simple. In case his condition relapsed or something else happened, it was more convenient to take him back to the hospital from this place. From the 95th floor, one can overlook a magnificent river view during the day and a dazzling display of lights at night. That evening, the Shen residence was brightly lit. A table full of dishes was delivered from a hotel, and the family gathered together to celebrate their third son's discharged from the hospital. While Shen Yuan was genuinely happy, he sighed softly to himself. He didn't know how to tell them that he might need to sleep again in a few ideas. He had no idea how anxious Luo Binghe was right now. Shen Yuan was momentarily distracted and his mother asked, "What's wrong? Are you still feeling unwell?" Shen Yuan chuckled and said, "No, I'm fine, just a little stuffed." Just then, the doorbell rang. At that moment, Shen Yuan felt a stirring in his heart. He didn't know why, but he had a very strange premonition. Shen Tang took the initiative to run to open the door, and returned shortly after. She said to Shen Yuan in surprise, "A friend of yours has come to see you." "A friend?" Shen Yuan's friends are all online, but his sister shouldn't be that surprised. It's hard to imagine her making that expression. Shen Yuan walked towards the door. When he saw who's there, he walked faster and almost tripped himself. Fortunately, a hand caught him in time. He looked up and was greeted by an incomparably handsome face. Luo Binghe looked down at him, his eyes filled with gradually fading anxiety and slowly with overflowing joy. Shen Yuan almost stopped breathing. He looked at Luo Binghe, then at his family, several things clashing in his mind. One thought said, "I need to comfort Luo Binghe, he's absolutely frantic." Another thought said, "How should I introduce Luo Binghe to my family?" There was one more crucial matter that immediately set off alarm bells in his mind. Because he remembered that his current appearance was the original one from the real world. His appearance had changed so Luo Binghe might not even recognize him. However, he soon realized that he had miscalculated. Because Luo Binghe was staring intently at him, and that look was absolutely the same look as Luo Binghe used to give him. Without uttering a single word, Shen Yuan knew that he had definitely recognized him. The group was caught in an awkward silence. Apart from Luo Binghe staring intently at Shen Yuan, the others looked at each other, wondering why the atmosphere had suddenly become so ambiguous. Shen Yuan decisively said, "Wait a moment, I need to handle this." He pulled Luo Binghe into his room as if his feet were on fire. "Shizun." Luo Binghe breathed a sigh of relief and said in a low voice, "I just knew it was you, Shizun." Shen Yuan asked, "How did you find your way here?" Luo Binghe said, "Shizun suddenly disappeared for several days. Mo Beijun came to me and said that the Ending Peak Lord was in the same situation. It took us some time to analyze the situation, then it took several months to trace the location of your souls through the bodies of Shizun and the Ending Peak Lord. He spoke of it casually as it seemed he had now calmed down. But Shen Yuan knew that it must have been extremely hard on him. Does the Northern Desert Lord has arrived, too? He also arrived. He had gone to find the Peak Master of Anding Peak. I hope Airplane Juju doesn't get so scared that he spills his instant noodles and get electrocuted again. Then will you be able to go back? If he and Shang Qinghua went back but Luo Binghe and Mo Beijun couldn't, then there would be big trouble. Luo Binghe calmly replied, Shizun, there's no need to worry. My soul is now bound to yours. Once your soul returns to its place, I will also return. Wherever you are, that's where I will be. Shen Yuan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Thankfully, it wouldn't turn into a tragedy of eternal separation. But how? How could the world in the book intersect with the modern world? He couldn't figure it out for the moment, so he decided to deal with the immediate situation first. Shen Yuan asked, how did you recognize me? He quickly regained the rhythm of life upon returning to the modern world, and now suddenly being called Shizun made him feel somewhat embarrassed. Luo Binghe smiled. He said, I just know. Even if Shizun has changed his appearance, I can tell if it's you at a glance. Shen Yuan took a deep breath and began to think about how to explain the situation to Luo Binghe. Perhaps it was because he had subconsciously anticipated that such a day might come that it took him only a few seconds. Shen Yuan calmly said, Binghe probably have some questions. However, Luo Binghe was more composed than he was. He tilted his head slightly and asked curiously, Shizun, what is there to doubt? Shen Yuan said, don't you have any doubts at all? For example, why am I here? Why am I like this? Luo Binghe seemed to find his words more puzzling. He said, why should I ask question about that? Why is Shizun here? Isn't it because this is? Wasn't this the world Shizun originally belonged to? As for why Shizun is like this, isn't it simply because this is Shizun's original form? Shen Yuan was shocked. A crack appeared in his composed demeanor. Do you always knew? Luo Binghe smiled and said, of course. It turns out that Luo Binghe already knew that he wasn't from that world, and that he was someone else. Shen Yuan still found it unbelievable. When did you find out? Luo Binghe said, very early on. How early is very early? Luo Binghe said slowly and deliberately, it was officially confirmed after the demon clan's first siege of Kengqiang Mountain, when my Shizun sent me to fight against Elder Tian Chui. Luo Binghe was extremely intelligent. When he sent Luo Binghe to fight Elder Tian Chui. That was so long ago. If Luo Binghe hadn't mentioned it, he wouldn't have even remembered Elder Tian Chui's name. How old was Luo Binghe then? Only about 14, right? He was so young yet he already noticed the clues. Luo Binghe continued, but my suspicions began during the incident at Xiāng City. Shizun's soul arrived into the world should be, before that, right? The correct time range was perfectly pointed. However, Shen Yuan still underestimated Luo Binghe's deductions. Luo Binghe stared intently at him and said, after the Xiāng City incident, I analyzed the sequence of events and worked backward to find. The Peak Lord had actually been acting strangely for some time. Not long ago before that, Shizun had a high fever on Qingjing Peak, but after the fever got better, Shizun became very different. If Shizun wants to ask what difference then, after being whipped and punished only to be offered medicine to resolve the situation seems unreasonable, doesn't it? He looked at Shen Yuan with a questioning and probing gaze, as if asking him, am I right? After a long pause, Shen Yuan took a light breath and said, your guess is quite correct. You're Shizun. I did indeed arrive at that time. Luo Binghe smiled brightly, as if he had finally untied a knot in his heart that had been pestering for many years. He sighed, finally, I can confirm it with my Shizun in person. Indeed, that was my first meeting with my Shizun. After a moment of silence, Shen Yuan said, since you knew about this all along, why did you never mention it? Luo Binghe asked curiously, why bring up such an unimportant matter? Since you won't tell me, doesn't that prove Shizun doesn't want to talk about it? Shizun doesn't want to talk about it, why should I bring it up and upset Shizun? Shen Yuan asked with difficulty, isn't this important? Luo Binghe calmly replied, of course. But the most important thing is that Shizun has arrived and not where Shizun came from, isn't it? Shen Yuan couldn't hold back any longer, but, don't you ever doubt that I'm not your Shizun? Luo Binghe laughed. He said softly, what are you saying, Shizun? You know better than anyone. I only have one Shizun. Who else could it be but you? Who raised me? Who taught me with such care? Does Shizun think that I am such a confused and ignorant creature? No, that's not it. It's just that I didn't expect you to have guessed it so early on, and to have accepted it so well. He underestimated Luo Binghe, he thought he'd need at least some psychological counseling. Shen Yuan's previously turbulent state of mind gradually calmed down, leaving only the relief of settling a major matter. At that moment, he noticed that Luo Binghe was staring intently at him. That gaze was so intense that it put immense pressure on Shen Yuan, who felt that he couldn't bear to be stared at like that any longer. Although he had often been stared at for his face since childhood, Luo Binghe was doing it so openly and confidently. Luo Binghe was the first one to do so. He coughed lightly and said, we can't go on like this. Let me take you out to meet my family. Upon hearing this, Luo Binghe's eyes lit up and he said, great. Shen Yuan felt that he suddenly looked radiant and was speechless. Shen Yuan changed Luo Binghe into one of his old clothes. As soon as the two stepped outside, Shen Yuan heard his mother say, it's normal for young people to do this nowadays, it's very popular. I know it's called cosplay. Why are you looking at people with such a strange expression? Don't be so old-fashioned. His dad was making tea as he replied, how am I old-fashioned? I know about cosplaying, too. I just think he's cosplaying is too good. What's wrong with me taking a second look? His sister glanced at them while playing her game and said, stop arguing. If you're done playing then you should go out. The three of them looked over at the same time. Shen Yuan said, are there any extra bowls and chopsticks? I'd like to get some more tableware. His mother pointed it out to him, and Shen Tang went over to get a bowl and filled it with rice. His father asked, San Lang, is that your friend? He said, no. My disciple is named Luo Binghe. Luo Binghe followed the script Shen Yuan had taught him and performed steadily. However, for some reason, he also took it upon himself to. With a blush creeping up his cheeks, he said, hello uncle, hello aunt. His mother greeted him warmly, oh, hello, it's Xiao Luo. Come, have a seat. His sister asked in surprise, your disciple? Where did you get a disciple? What are you teaching? Are you sure he's not your junior? Shen Yuan said without changing her expression, I taught him how to play games. A cultivation, monster slaying, and hack and slashing game. I'm currently the second in command of the most righteous guild in the world, and I often have to mentor newbies. There's an offline event these days, and Binghe. He's cosplaying as the game's boss, and he came over today to show me his costume. He also has a performance to do and I need to help him rehearse, so he's staying with me for the next few days. His mother smiled and said, oh, I see. Little Gur got a good price on play. Keep up the good work on the show. Shen Yuan struggled to suppress his laughter, saying, he is very handsome, otherwise why would we choose him to cosplay? Luo Binghe seemed to understand. He blushed and said, thank you for the compliment, auntie. Binghe is just an ordinary person. In my heart, Shizun is the one with the appearance of a celestial being. Shen Yuan calmly told his parents, Binghe is a top student majoring in classical Chinese. This is his linguistic style. Got used to it. Oh, is that so? It has depth and is different from today's kids. Shen Yuan's biggest worry was that his sister might have noticed something amiss. But thankfully, nothing happened. They sat down to eat. His sister glanced at Luo Binghe, perhaps thinking that his long hair was inconvenient, and after thinking for a moment, she took a hair tie off her wrist and said, "Here, take this." Luo Binghe politely and solemnly said thank you. He took it and then began to examine the rubber band hair tie with a cotton puppy hanging from it. The puppy looked silly and was wearing a small bib. He didn't show any sign of doubt. But just in case, Shen Yuan still took the hair tie and said, "I'll do it." He got up and walked over. Luo Binghe sat obediently in the chair, his hands on his lap, sitting upright like a good student, looking like an expectant elementary school student. Shen Yuan helped Luo Binghe tie up his long hair, thinking that he would have to make an appointment with a stylist tomorrow to give Luo Binghe a haircut. After finishing the hairdo, he thought, not bad, it's actually quite cute. Luo Binghe is strangely suited to cute things, and Shen Yuan couldn't help but laugh. He laughed until they were all back, then Shen Tang asked him, "When did you play that game?" "What game?" "I want to play it, too." Shen Yuan, playing games is a complete waste of time. Your task now is to study hard. Shen Tang said in confusion, after you came back from the hospital, you inexplicably had the air of someone who had been a primary school teacher for 10 years. Is my cultivation just my imagination? His mother said, yes, I think so, too. Shen Yuan said, what I'm trying to say is that when I was your age, I always studied hard. Shen Tang, I'm doing well in my studies, you don't need to worry about me. Besides, you studied hard back then and now you're doing well, aren't you? Playing video games. What's the difference between playing them early or playing them later on? I can't afford to offend her, I really can't afford to offend her. No wonder she's at the top of the food chain in her class. Shen Yuan clasped his hands in a fist salute to her. He recognized where the wind was blowing. Then he saw Luo Binghe smiling. No, what are you laughing at? Shen Tóngxiù felt that if he had a fan in his hand right now, he would definitely have struck this rebellious brat. At this moment, his mother glanced at Luo Binghe and suddenly exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my, isn't this Benben?" Luo Binghe was puzzled. Everyone else at the table also glanced at Luo Binghe immediately, noticing the little dog on his hair tie. His father pushed up his glasses and agreed, it does look like Benben. And that ugly bib, that's what San Lang likes the most. It was given to it to wear. Shen Yuan's face darkened as he said, first, that bib isn't ugly, it's the best looking one I made. Second, of course it's exactly the same, because I had it custom made based on Benben's photo. Who is Benben? Only Luo Binghe raised the question. Shen Tang explained to him very seriously, it was my brother's dog. My parents didn't allow dogs, but when he was in 6th grade, he secretly picked up a dog that had been hit by a car on the roadside. He secretly wrapped the dog up like a dumpling, secretly shared his food with the dog and secretly put the dog on his bed to sleep. As a result, in the morning, the dog lay on his chest and almost crushed him to death. Shen Tang, Shen Yuan said, could you please stop repeating this to everyone I introduce to you? This story makes no sense. Luo Binghe said sincerely, but Shizun, I find it very interesting, and I really want to hear it. Could you please ask your younger sister? End chapter. The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. Real World, Part 3, Daily Life. On the morning of the third day, Shen Yuan got up right away. Time was a luxury, so it's not advisable to stay in bed too long. He made an appointment with a stylist and drove Luo Binghe out to get a haircut. Shen Yuan sighed, as expected of the male lead, his face is just too good. Many male celebrities only have one type of look that suits them well, whether in period dramas or in modern dramas. This is because when a person's facial features aren't particularly outstanding, they need different moods to complement them, and the shortcomings of their facial features and body shape mean that they can only suit a certain mood, rather than being versatile. But Luo Binghe's face is truly flawless from every angle. Shen Yuan suspects he would still be handsome even with a buzz cut. But he restrained himself from playing the fool and confirming it. After all, in his aesthetic sense, a buzz cut was the worst possible look. He decided to just give Luo Binghe a clean, normal short haircut. Throughout, he enthusiastically gave various instructions: thin it out a bit here, make the bangs a little more layered, even short hair should have a flowing feel. Luo Binghe kept staring at him and listening to his various opinions, as if he found it interesting. Luo Binghe was originally wearing Shen Yuan's clothes, but since he was taller than Shen Yuan, they didn't fit him quite right. So, Shen Yuan dug out his brother's old clothes from when he was in college. Luo Binghe transformed from the black-clad demon lord into a male college student in a white shirt. Even the simplest and cleanest look was still quite striking. Luo Binghe casually slipped one hand into his low-waist pocket, glanced at his oddly styled reflection in the mirror and thoughtfully asked, "Shizun, do you like this look?" Shen Yuan adjusted the position of his belt buckle, then carefully rolled up the sleeves of his shirt to reveal a section of fair but strong wrist. After examining it for a moment, he said lightly, "Not bad. Like it?" Is he kidding? College student Luo Binghe is incredibly handsome, okay. Was he even allowed to look this good? Asterisk asterisk asterisk. In less than a day, Luo Binghe completely won over Shen Yuan's mother's heart. At noon, Luo Binghe was very well behaved, busying himself in the kitchen and taking care of all the work by himself. His mother just glanced into the kitchen, tasted a bite and to her surprise, praised the cooking to the skies. His mother exclaimed with emotion, "Xiao Luo's future wife will definitely be very happy." Luo Binghe blushed modestly and said, "Thank you, Auntie. Binghe hopes so, too." Shen Yuan would watch the news outside for a while, then turn back to look at them again, finding it hard to understand. Wait, what's wrong with this strange atmosphere? That evening, Shen Yuan wanted to show Luo Binghe how to deal with modern society and also have a team-building activity. So all of them set off in a grand procession. Shen Yuan had envisioned some adorable scenarios beforehand. For example, when Luo Binghe saw something unfamiliar, he would look at him timidly like an ignorant child, and unless Shen Yuan smiled and clapped to encourage him, Luo Binghe wouldn't dare to take a step. Then, he would patiently teach Luo Binghe like a child. After all, once Luo Binghe grew up, there wouldn't be much for him to teach anymore. Let him experience being a Shizun one last time. But he was embarrassed to discover that he had overthought things. That was completely his own wishful thinking. One could only marvel once again, no wonder he's the male lead. Luo Binghe's learning ability and adaptability were truly terrifying. Shen Yuan slept all night, while Luo Binghe studied with inhuman efficiency. When Shen Yuan woke up in the morning, the Luo Binghe he saw was no longer the curious child from the night before. He had become intimately familiar with the modern world at the speed of light. Not only had he read through all of Shen Yuan's textbooks, from elementary school to university, but he had even asked the retiring, blissful dream demon to create a space with a low time flow for him, allowing him to watch all the top 250 movies on a certain website. What does this mean? He didn't even need a single guidance from Shen Yuan. However, although Luo Binghe had gained some understanding of the modern world, his views were a bit askew. For example, Shen Yuan discovered a misconception. People from low magic fantasy worlds might not necessarily look down on the modern world. Airplane? Spirit beasts can fly, and swords can fly, too. What's so special about airplanes? Do you think they don't have large-scale group sword formations? Television? There wasn't that cliché. There are so many people moving in that colored panel. How amazing! Scenario. This might be a low magic fantasy world, but they have a spirit-searching mirror. so, what's the difference between seeing that and seeing this? Besides, what they see in the mirror was real time. Any powerful being who's made it big could just say, I want to see the ghost head spider laying eggs. And they'll immediately find them for you and keep you entertained. Internet access? So why do people argue with so many strangers on screen? What's the point? People from low magic fantasy worlds, if they have a problem with someone, they can just fly off for a real-life PvP battle. Wouldn't that be more honorable and straightforward? Shen Yuan felt he had missed on a great deal of fun. Even watching movies doesn't seem to hold much interest for Luo Binghe because watching movies on the big screen was essentially a substitute for experiencing spectacle and grand scenes. But in low magic fantasy worlds, you could fly directly to see the real-life locations. Want to see a spectacle? Luo Binghe could create a spectacle directly on flat ground. Also, the movie itself was terrible. How can there be a movie with a plot even worse than what the author, Mr. Airplane, wrote? Amidst the barrage of light pollution effects, Shen Yuan glanced at Luo Binghe beside him. He seemed expressionless. He seemed quite suspicious of a large group of people sitting in a pitch-black room, so excited just to see moving pictures. What were they after? Only when Shen Yuan looked over and their eyes met did his gaze soften. The comforting thing was that at least Luo Binghe thought the popcorn was delicious. Shen Yuan felt quite satisfied with feeding him. After watching the movie, a large group of people strolled along the riverbank. Shen Yuan discussed the movie with his parents for a few minutes, giving them a serious critique. Turning around, he suddenly noticed Luo Binghe not far away, watching them chat and laugh with a faint smile, his eyes holding a rather enigmatic expression. Shen Yuan slowed his pace and walked to Luo Binghe's side. Shen Yuan said, judging from your reaction, you didn't find today interesting either, did you? Luo Binghe tilted his head and asked curiously, does it matter with Shizun whether I find this world interesting or not? Is it important? It seems somewhat important. It wasn't because of a shattered sense of superiority or a loss of self-esteem. Shen Yuan never had that kind of superiority complex. Shen Yuan thought for a moment, sighed softly and said, you came here by chance, so of course I hope to show you something interesting. Otherwise, I feel like this Shizun is losing face. Luo Binghe smiled faintly and said, although many things in this world aren't that interesting, it's only in this world that Shizun's soul was born, isn't it? The steps paused. Luo Binghe looked at him, his eyes reflecting the lights on the river and the silhouette of Shen Yuan alone as he said, this world is remarkable for that fact alone. Shen Yuan was somewhat at a loss for words. Luo Binghe said, this is enough to make me want to know more. So Shizun don't need to worry about whether I find these things interesting. This world was not interesting because of what's in it but because of the existence of a certain person. The world had been exempt from immunity from the very beginning. Shen Yuan blinked, coughed lightly and said, stop. I understand what you mean. After hesitating for a moment, he still said, but don't try to be too extreme. Give him some space to learn. It's not good for a child to be too studious. Luo Binghe smiled and nodded, saying, this disciple understands. Just as Shen Yuan was about to express his satisfaction with a reserved demeanor, he suddenly heard the sound of Han Yao coming from behind him. Looking back, he realized that his sister had somehow walked up behind them, biting on a Coke straw and watching them. Luo Binghe appeared completely at ease, but Shen Yuan sensed something was off about his sister's gaze. He said, what are you looking at? His sister slurped down her Coke, gulped it down, stomped on the can, picked it up and threw it in the trash can. She put her hands in her pockets, as if deep in thought. Finally, she said softly, don't be afraid, I'll help you keep it a secret. Actually, I've known since I was little that you'd most likely end up alone. I just never expected things to develop this way. You brat, stop cursing your brother like that. Also, what do you mean by knew it since you were little? My level of being a shut-in isn't that incurable. I'm only a half shut in, half shut in. Generally speaking, I'm a social butterfly. End chapter. The Scum Villain Self-Saving System. Extra Chapter. Real World, Part 4, Proud Immortal. On the fourth day, Shen Yuan finally heard from Xiāng Tóngxiù. A contact whose profile picture is an airplane keeps popping up red with new message notifications. Airplane, bro, do you know what happened? It's terrifying. Airplane, he found me. He crawled out of my computer screen like Sadako. It scared me to death. My brand new computer. My instant noodles. Airplane, I'm talking about Mo-Bei-jun. Airplane, he also said Luo Binghe is here, too. Is he really here? Are you still breathing over there? Mo-Bei-jun's entrance. Shen Yuan's lips twitched. Luo Binghe's entrance seemed much more normal. Of course, who knows where Luo Binghe originally crawled out from? Maybe it was even more terrifying than Mo-Bei-jun. Airplane, I feel like the end of the world is coming. Screaming and clutching head.jpg. Airplane, how could they come to the real world? Does this mean I'm actually a creator god? No way. I don't think I can bear such a heavy fate. Shen Yuan wanted to slam the curtain shut again but found that there was no curtain to pull. So he blocked Xiāng Tóngxiù without hesitation. A little while later though, he unblocked Xiāng Tóngxiù. Airplane seemed completely unaware of what had happened and continued. Airplane, he asked me why I ran again and I felt like he was about to cry. From anger. It scared me to death. What could I say? I said, my king, I didn't intend to run. I really didn't mean to. Airplane, I had to coax and plead with him for ages before he finally believed me. He's so hard to coax. Airplane, I've never been this tired, not even when I was updating 80,000 words a day. These past few days, my whole body feels like it's falling apart. Only now do I have time to talk to you. Cucumber bro, wait for me. I'll ask him to borrow Luo Binghe's dream demon ability to put me in a low time flowing, dark room in my dream. I'm going to write a biography for our brand new PIDW. Shen Yuan, did he find out what you were writing? Airplane, don't worry. I'll keep it a secret and won't let him see it. Mo-Bei is a man of his word, once he promised he wouldn't look then. He won't. Airplane, I took him out to play during the day, but he's not interested in anything. Ugh, why can't I send messages? It's too high up. Here, no signal. Shen Yuan sensed something was wrong. Shen Yuan, where are you now? Xiāng Tóngxiù sent him a selfie. Shen Yuan glanced at it and couldn't believe it. He felt like these two might have broken a world record. Shen Yuan rubbed his temples in disbelief. Shen Yuan, where have you both climbed onto? Airplane, I don't know either. I took him to the amusement park today, hoping he could ride the pirate ship and Ferris wheel and experience the local culture and entertainment. He was sleeping fine last night but when I woke up, I don't know how he got me up here. Cucumber bro, I'm so scared. Shen Yuan was both amused and exasperated. How should he put it? Although things were chaotic, it wasn't bad that someone was keeping Fei Juju company. He no longer had to type on the keyboard while having instant noodles all alone in his small rented room. He thought for a moment and analyzed things. Shen Yuan, he probably thought you liked this kind of entertainment and wanted to show you that he can provide any kind of excitement if you stay by his side. ... Shen Yuan, are you still there? Shen Yuan, are you still alive? Shen Yuan, okay. Next time, don't take him to amusement parks, go somewhere normal. Although the amusement park was actually quite normal. *******. Airplane Bro was presumably still alive. Because shortly right after, earth-shattering news broke. The wildly popular and controversial masterpiece on Xidian Literature Network, the peerless divine book The Proud Immortal Demon Way has been updated with 180,000 words of extra chapters. 180,000 words. Airplane Bro's hand speed is truly terrifying. The Proud Immortal Demon Way could still be updated with another 18 million words. However, the forums looked quite chaotic. What's truly alarming was that, according to breaking news, in this latest update, the notoriously unscrupulous airplane shooting towards the sky was suddenly writing a serious story. The added content departs from the previous style of being wildly incoherent and lacking in intelligence. The fates of many characters have changed significantly. For example, Xiāng Tóngxiù, the most shameless villain in the early stages, had even had his personality altered. Some characters who were supposed to die have come back to life, such as Luo Binghe, the Peak Lord of Bison Peak who died early. There are also some new characters who have appeared, such as Luo Binghe's parents. This seemed to be a completely new PIDW in a parallel world. Countless readers were engaged in heated discussions about the new characters and plot, but many others are also fiercely debating whether the plot was terrible, whether the new side story was out of character, whether the plane has changed its route, and whether the author has run out of ideas for the plane. Homepage Hot Post Titles List. Wow, airplanes have switched to writing about bromance. 3,981 replies. So disappointing. What is this crap? 206 replies. In terms of combat prowess, between Luo Binghe and Tianlang Jun at their peak, who truly reigns supreme among the heavenly demons? 1,118 replies. It's not the same anymore. Let the white moonlight remain in my heart forever. 619 replies. Actually, not having an Empress Dowager is quite good, don't you think? 781 replies. I wanted to collect all the beauties, and you gave me a complete harem wipeout? Give me my money back. 111 replies. Poll, which of the two stunning beauties in PIDW do you support, Luo Binghe or Xie Hualing? 888 replies. In a battle power debate, if Yu Qingyuan were to remove the lifespan burning debuff from the Xiansu sword and fight Luo Binghe at his peak, could he win? 961 replies. Brothers, we've won first place. PIDW has such a profound sectarian foundation, I underestimated it. We, the Heavenly Demon Clan, are destined to stir up the winds of change in this world. 442 replies. The male lead's character has collapsed, is this still Luo Binghe? Trash. 339 replies. What? Upon getting to this post title, Shen Yuan immediately perked up and was filled with uncontrollable rage. This is outrageous. Let's get down to business. Who gave you permission to criticize the male lead? He retrieved his password at lightning speed and logged into the legendary account in the book review section of The Proud Immortal Demon Way, the former expert, now a god, whose reader points and reward levels made him the envy of everyone peerless cucumber. He rolled up his sleeves, laid the keyboard across the table, and placed 3 phones aside. The battle began. More and more new and old readers were emerging. One retired old grandpa. Who is this? Such high level, so powerful. 2 Kinga's #1 fan. This is Cucumber Bro. You guys don't know Cucumber Bro? You've obviously never followed the series. 3 Baijian Peak enthusiast. What do you mean? Some joined late and haven't followed the series, so what? Are you some kind of superior old fan? 4 Kant Kyung Stairway Sweeper. Cucumber Bro, long time no see. How did you become a fan of Airplane? Weren't you his biggest hater? P.S. Baijian Peak enthusiast, chill out. 5 Luo Binghe, the beauty. I've always seen him as a fan. He just loves Luo Binghe that much. 6 Linger spell. Why is this fandom so toxic? I'm just here for my girl Xiāng. Airplane, I'll forgive you if you write one more side story about Xiāng. Humph humph humph. I want her to step on me. 7 Off with SQQ's balls. He just loves Luo Binghe so much. +1. 8 Bring back the old glory. Actually, Cucumber Bro's analysis makes sense. PIDW didn't change its direction. It simply returned to its previous path. When Airplane first started writing, he had this style and not vulgar at all. It's just that he didn't write power fantasy, so no one read them. Although he did get popular later on, he lost his integrity. Longtime fans are quite saddened by this. I thought I would never see Airplane writing seriously again. And, Cucumber Bro has really become a fan. He quotes so many classics and speaks so eloquently, he's read all of Airplane's previous works. Certified fan status achieved. 9 Just a passerby. No offense intended, but it's amazing that there are actually such genuine fans of PIDW in the world. I'll remember the name Peerless Cucumber, that guy's pretty awesome. 10 Peerless Cucumber, legendary. Instead of wasting your time here babbling on and on, could a few of you come out and join me in this argument? Can't even shoot the first shot, and can't even pick up the leftovers? 11 10 Years a reader, OP. The garbage PIDW is being hyped up again, the same old crap, ha ha ha. Don't tell me you can't see the blatant queer baiting. Of course, die-hard fans won't see anything, they'll only praise whatever they see. 12 Ending Admissions Office. He still loves Luo Binghe +2. We're with you, Cucumber Bro. 777 10 Years a reader, OP. This post has been blocked by the website due to its personal attack content. Please respect the guidelines for book review section and engage in civilized discussion. 1314 Qingjing Peak Education, your peace of mind. He really loves Luo Binghe +999. End chapter.